Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division in the Winter Major Tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Let's go. We're going to, as I said, we play Pro and Expert Division here, and this playthrough is going to contain holes for all of the ones that we're going to play, but we're not going to have this as tournament win. We do not know the tournament win. I don't know, you don't know. No one knows except for Playdemic until the tournament starts Monday the 18th of February. We are going to play a full 9 of the Maple Bay, which all of them are new courses. So if you haven't played on Tour 10, then you will not have been able to play these one from the second tee before. Do not forget to check down in the video description down below. Then you can get a link to patreon.com/golf/tommy where you can sign up to get the text guides for the Winter Major Tournament. Also, that you can see direct timestamps for the specific holes in this playthrough. So, now, drive. We're going to over adjust and we're going to play this one 10% over adjustment. So we're playing downhill. Play with a Kingmaker ball. Using max topspin here, backing up a little bit with my target, so I'm bouncing before the bunker, so I'm going to bounce in between the two bunkers there. As much side spin to the right combined with the topspin here is going to be necessary, as we do want to follow the right side there. Sure, if we would be having the wind that was pointed slightly to the right instead of slightly to the left as it is now, then we would not be doing that. So, slight amount of curl to the right here to just help ourselves if we for some reason would be hitting the ball great to the left. We bounce where we aim, and we're going to roll out very nicely here on the fairway. The more topspin you have, the easier this shot is going to be. But as our opponent played on the left side, I would just say that it's absolutely possible to play on the left side. But the opportunity of dropping an eagle from distance is way bigger on the right side than it is on the left side. So that is why I do try to in any means like to play on the right side instead of the left. But some, like if we would be having a strong wind, like let's say we would be having a 10, 11, 12 mile per hour headwind here, then we would be considering to play on the left side instead. And also depends on the club that we're having, of course. Like a lower level XMI, level 6, level 7, maybe a lower level Thor's Hammer with not that much distance or topspin, then maybe the left side once again. But, you know, you can see two sides here and you can see there is no problem whatsoever for our opponent to reach from the rough from the left. Second shot here, I played it downhill as well. I played over adjust that 10%. And I'm going to use as much side spin that I possibly can to the right. And the thing that I do want to strive for here is to take away, you can see on the ball guide line that is a little bit strange, is that we do have a hump there in the fairway, a little bit to the right there, which is messing up our landing position a little bit. So the thing that I would like to advise you to do is to either go further ahead, use more backspin, or back up a little bit and find a better spot than I'm going with here. Because now I'm not aiming at a complete flat surface, which is sometimes going to bounce myself, like in this case, more to the right or so. So, this was hole number 1, and let's go to hole 2. Hole 2 is a par 5, and we're going to start by over adjusting this shot as well, 10%. Max topspin, which is 6 bars, and as much side spin to the left as possible. Of course, if you do have less amount of topspin, then you use as much as you possibly can. Going to stick with the sniper here. I don't see the need of playing with a wood club with more distance if we're not feeling uncomfortable with this drive. Like let's say we do want to be very conservative and maybe back up even more than I'm doing here and play it up, then I would consider us playing with a big dog or maybe with a cataclysm for the second shot to make sure that we're going to reach over for the second shot. You could see there as well, we don't really need a power 3 ball for the drive, but we need it for the second shot. That's what we need to do. We need to think like 2-3 steps ahead, and it's very important then, so we do decide already from the beginning, okay, drive, okay, but second shot we need distance. Then we play with a power 3 ball to make it easier for us. And you're going to see the difference here from making a short drive and and not have a power 3 ball, our opponent's going to stick with the sniper anyway, which is a mistake a little bit here. So even if would be reaching the fairway here, it would be very, very tough for our opponent to reach for the green into. When we do make this shot here, then we're going to have an approach shot for the pin, which is going to be tough. I'm going to show an aggressive approach, as I believe that is kind of the only way where we can go straight at the pin if we're not going to want to use a bunch of curl and side spin and stuff like that. So, second shot, we're going to play with a sniper. Now in this example, I do only over adjust 10%, but we need to over adjust 20. Important to do that so we do get it correct. So, now we're going to look at the ball guy line here. I'm looking for bouncing into the rough there over the water to roll out to the pin. Aggressive, but I want to show that that is basically the only way for us to do an approach shot towards the pin here. I'm aiming slightly above the rough to compensate for the compressed ball guy line that we're going to have. And now it's important, of course, that we do over adjust our shot, which we don't. We actually under adjust this one big time. I saw like 8.5 rings. Then of course we're going to go short. We still bounce and we roll in the rough and roll out. We are a bit lucky there, I would say. Only thing I would say about the drive before we go to hole number 3 is if you do have tailwind, full blast overpower, bounce yourself over to the second piece of fairway, because that is going to help you big time while approaching the pin. And if you do that and have tailwind, then you're going to have crosswind for the second shot in the tournament. And then we're going to go with a club that gives you the most backspin possible, like the Saturn, the Tsunami, or the and the Guardian as a wood club. So let's go to hole number 3, which is a par 3. We're going to over adjust this shot as well. 10% downhill is the thing that we do want. And while playing with a power 3 ball, we're going to use a long iron towards the pin. If we would be playing with a power 1 ball or less, we most likely would be playing with a wood club if we would be having headwind. So I would say like this, decide for what you want to do. If you're going to play with a power 1 ball in expert, then I hope it's going to be a ball that has more wind resistant than a Kingmaker has, like a wind resistant 4 or 5. Then that makes sense. Then we'll play with a wood club. But otherwise you do play with a Kingmaker, reduce the wind as much as possible and give yourself that long iron approach. Playing with the Goliath due to the more distance than we do have on the backbone. So we do have 15 yards more of distance, which helps big time. I'm going to play this one in the end, half a bar of side spin to the right with 3 bars of backspin. You can see the red ring just being at the rough there, approximately there, and with the second bounce by the fringe here. The thing that we do need to have in mind here is that we are going to have a fairway. Look at the fairway here, it slopes left to right, which means that we're going to have an extra push to the right. So we almost need to over adjust when it comes to side spin in terms of compensate to the other direction. In this case here, we would need to play without side spin completely and also reduce a little bit of backspin. Minor things, but that's something that we do need to think of. If we would be having left to right wind as we had now, but stronger. So let's go to hole number 4. Hole number 4 is a par 4. And we're going to take an opportunity here to actually go for the eagle. There's two ways to play this hole, and if we would be having tailwind, then we would be going full blast overpower with a power 5 ball, put ourselves in the rough along the green, and roll out by using as much topspin as we possibly can. And that maybe sound like why to put ourselves in the rough or in the sand, but I would rather take a short rough iron wedge like Chip instead of playing with a wood club or with or with a long iron towards the pin. But when we do have headwind, or a crosswind for that matter, then we're going to play on the right side, like our opponent is doing here. He's using a power 2 ball, having to go with overpower. I'm going to use a power 3 ball when I do have headwind. If I do have crosswind, I'm going to play with a power 1, power 2 ball, because then we don't need to adjust further ahead there. And we're gonna see here now, first and foremost, we need to over-adjust. We need to over-adjust this one 10% as for the slight downhill approach. And we're going to bounce over there using max topspin combined with as much side spin to the left as possible. And we're going to adjust for max numbers. The thing here though is like when we do bounce here and over, we need to make sure that we're not aiming for the top of this fairway, rather aim for the point where I was aiming, because otherwise you're going to have a very flat bounce, and that is going to risk giving you a bounce that is going to put you directly into the sand or into the rough. Now we bounced directly over and we rolled up, as you see on the fairway, which has a very big slope, so even if you come in hot, you will not have any problems whatsoever to stay on the fairway. Now we come to a second shot here, where I'm going to play just normal. I'm not going to over adjust or under adjust in this example, but there's one thing that we do forget to do here, and we're gonna come to that in just a little bit. But first we're going to play with a long iron here. We have a power 3 ball and we reached with enough distance here to be able to play the rough bump with a long iron. So we go with the rough bump. And when we go with a rough bump, it is important that we do use enough topspin in headwind, as we're going to get a compressed ball guideline combined with it bouncing into the rough will make it even more compressed, as the rough already works as slowing down the ball from its original pace. So you can see, even though we don't have a max ball guideline with the Goliath here, we put the ball guideline through the hole, so we should be able to reach. The thing, now we come to the thing that I forget here is like, now look at this hill there. We're actually shooting from a higher point to a lower point, which means that we need to over adjust our shot. Not just play it as it is, we need to play downhill numbers. And I would be over adjusting this one 10%. Just because we reached to the point where we were there. We're coming in very nicely towards the pin, so that's not the problem, but we do go short, and if you look closely at the bounce, we bounce shorter than we were aiming as well. The only thing to have in mind there, if you go short with your drive, you maybe cut the rough roll out, then you're going to be on a lower point shooting like to the same point towards the rough bump, then we're not going to over adjust, because there we're not going to play downhill. So hole number 5 here, it's a par 5, and here it's also important with a power 3 ball. I do make one slight mistake that we're going to come to when it comes to the second shot, but first and foremost we need to decide how to make the drive in the best way possible. We're going to make it with a power 3 ball, and we can do it in two ways when we have tailwind here. One, we take it more conservative. We use a slight amount of overpower here to go directly over to this second fairway spot there to the left, and use half a bar of backspin with 3 to 4 bars of side spin to the left, and just let it stay there. The thing that could happen there is, like, with a strong headwind for the second shot, we might going to have to overpower our shot, which always going to be tricky. And the other suggestion that you do have, or the option you do have with a tailwind, is that you pull out a Titan ball, which gives you more wind, or you pull out a power 4 or a power 5 ball, go full blast overpower, max topspin, max side spin to the left, and roll over to the next piece of fairway, exactly there where our opponent is aiming for there. Then the albatross opportunity is going to increase so much that you're actually just going to have a short iron or a long iron towards the pin, and then we do have a good opportunity. I believe we're going to see many drops of albatrosses if that will be happening. But now we didn't, and if we do and are going to play on this fairway spot that I was aiming for. I reached a good amount of distance there, but I'm playing with the wrong wood club. I do need more distance, even though I don't like it, but with this type of wind, we do need more distance. That's the same with headwind. Just think yourself in headwind here, then we would be having to go with max overpower. We do want to use the back of the green to make the ball fall back down, and that's going to be so important, as we otherwise is going to have a hard time to get the ball to stop alongside the pin. Now I do use a little bit too much overpower, and I do go too far, roll up here to the fringe, and I'm going to have no problem whatsoever to chip this one in, as I can just put the ball on, like, ball guide line on the fairway, and it's going to just roll, like on the green, and it's just going to roll back down. We over adjust the drive 10%, we over adjust the second shot 10% as well, but pick the correct wood club depending on what wind you're having in either, of course, a tour play, but especially for the winter major tournament. Hole number 6. Now we need to make sure that we are picking the correct ball depending on what wind we're going to have in the tournament. So if we're going to have this type of wind, I'm going to play with a power 3 ball, and I'm going to play with my sniper. I'm going to play the sniper in minimum distance with a 20% over adjustment, because this one is very downhill. This is a very tough par 3, so if you're not getting a hole-in-one on this one, you should not be disappointed of yourself. Look at this. We need to bounce on a bumpy part of fairway and bounce up towards the green and rely on the ball to fall back down towards the pin for a possible hole-in-one. And in my opinion here, this one is going to be a general birdie hole, but it's going to be more pars than it's going to be a hole-in-one. We could and we should, of course, give it a try. And when we do have some headwind, we need to pay attention to the compressed ball guideline, especially when it's so much downhill. So I'm going to play this one with 3 bars of side spin to the left and a tiny bit of top spin. Like, it's even that I play with 3.5 here when it comes to side spin. And that is to the top spin is to compensate for the fact that we are having headwind, so we're not going to let the ball die sooner when it hits the ground. If I would be having tailwind, I would be using 2 to 4 bars of backspin as to compensate for the extended ball guideline, and with crosswind I would be using a normal 2 bars of backspin. We're coming in very nicely here, rolling down, getting the hole, getting so close. And sure, we're going to see some 360s, 180 around the cup, but if we just hit the pin there, we would have no problem to get that ball in for a hole-in-one. Hole number 7, par 4, the last par 4 that we do have in the winter major tournament, and it's also going to be a short one. If we do have tailwind, we do have 2 options here. We can either go directly over to the final piece of fairway, not the fairway where the green is, but the final piece, like before the water, I would say. But then we need to go with some overpower, and that's always going to be a little bit risky. I'm going to aim in this example for the fairway island that we do have amongst the bunker there, and we're going to adjust it for maximum distance of our club with as much side spin to the left possible, combined with 5 bars of topspin. I don't want to use 6 because there is a risk of going too far and rolling into the rough, and the only thing I want to focus on here is that I have an opportunity to chip this one in from distance. So I need to be on fairway because I really like this approach we're having here. If we would be having headwind, then we would be putting our target before the bunker even starts, like before the rough, on the first piece of fairway, using max topspin as much as you possibly can, combined with as much side spin to the left as possible. Then we need to go with like at least 1 ball of curl to the left to curl ourselves in to the final piece of fairway. So we're basically going to bounce over the bunker and over the rough and get to the final piece of fairway there to give ourselves an opportunity like the one we have now, or maybe with a long iron from distance. Important for the second shot, use a club with backspin. Thorn for the short iron, Saturn for the long iron. You can play with a Tsunami as well, but the Saturn most likely has a better ball guideline. So backspin ball guideline is what I value here. We're going to be in minimum distance of our club here with the Thorn. And now I do have two options. I can either go with a max backspin approach, or I can go with a slight less backspin approach and bounce it to the pin, or even a third actually, we can use the back of the green. But I'm going to use the max backspin approach, aiming slightly like a half a cup outside to the right to compensate for the push that we're going to get with this with the crosswind. But for the tailwind, I'm going to let the tip of the ball guideline just be shown as in the distance that the pin has. The reason I do that is when we have tailwind, once again we have an extended ball guideline, and to not go short when we roll back, then we need to put it in the position that I am having here. Very happy with that approach, and I do believe that we're going to see some eagles on that par 4. Hole number 8, last par 3, and also a very tough one. Here we need to over adjust 35%. Oh my god, 35% is going to be a lot. So and in this example I'm going to play with a Cataclysm, unfortunately, because I did go into the shootout with a Cataclysm from coming from a par 5. I would otherwise go with the sniper all day and every day on this par 3, because the better ball guideline, the better accuracy, the easier it's going to be for us to get this ball close. And this is also a par 3, like, be super happy with a birdie, okay? Because it's going to be very tough to compensate, especially like with crosswind and stuff, to compensate enough when it comes to having the 35% downhill elevation adjustment. And for those of you that might have been watching the rookie playthrough, I say 30, yes, that is because this tee is slightly higher up than the front tee. That's why I'm adding even 5% more. 5.5 bar backspin with 2 bars of side spin to the right, and also going to adjust this one for around 5.8, 5.9 rings, slight baby curl right. And you can, the only thing here that I would change is to take away the curl to the right, combined with using 5 bars of backspin instead. Then we would be having enough distance to go direct to the pin. I'm super happy with that shot, and I think that if we do play a shot like that, if so in tour play, if so in tournament, we cannot complain. It's going to be need a little bit of luck to get that ball in the hole. Last but not least, we're going to go and check hole number 9. Hole number 9 is a par 5 where we are not going to over adjust our drive. That's strange, because we do that on every other shot, but this time we're not going to. I'm changing bags, so I do have a wood club that gives me more distance. I'm going to play with a Cataclysm level 6, and before you make a comment and say like Cataclysm level 6 is not the general expert club, no, it's not, but I go for the distance. It's like I would be choosing the big dog if I wouldn't be having the Cataclysm in any decent level. But of course I'm going to play with the Cataclysm instead of the big dog when the level is so high here. I'm going to go for the double bounce, max top spin, max side spin to the left, but also going to use a Titan ball, so I do give myself more tailwind. The thing that can happen here is, like, let's say you have headwind, then you will have to just lay up short. And that's the only thing that we can really do. And I would say that it's almost with headwind to try to get over the bunker on the right. So we can, for the second shot, reach over and bounce towards the green. But headwind is going to be tough, and it's almost that it's pushing ourselves to use a power 5 ball like our opponent, or maybe a power 4 ball. Power 4 ball instead to get more distance. But with tailwind, crosswind, I'm gonna play left. We go with a double bounce if we want to. If we do want to go with max overpower, you can go with a single bounce. But I don't like to go max overpower if I'm not absolutely have to, because we can hit it like our opponent is doing, hit it good, and then we're going to rely on the luck if we're going to get this ball to stop on the fairway. Unfortunately for our opponent, is going to go down into the rough, or into the sand maybe, I don't know, into the rough. And from this position, he or she will not be able to reef the green in 2, especially not now with headwind. So now I'm going to move back my target. I'm going to play in medium distance of my club, max side spin and 5 bars of top spin. The thing that I'm focused on here is to get my ball to come in rather hot than short. The reason I want that is because I don't want my second bounce to be in the rough on the other side and go short and have a medium or like minimum wedge to pin, and having to push that one hard to get that one in the hole. That's not something that I would like to do. So I do want to bounce before here, use a good amount of topspin here. 4.5 bar would be okay, maybe even 4, but I like this speed the ball is coming in with, and if we would be hitting the pin, the ball would be dropping down for an albatross. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division for the Winter Major Tournament. Have in mind once again that the wind is not displaying the exact win we're going to have in the tournament. Therefore, there is going to be a new playthrough for Pro, like it's going to be separated, it's like one for Pro, one for Expert, once the tournament has started. Also, when tournament has started, I'm going to release the updated text guides for Patreon only, where I'm going to share my notes, my adjustments on how I approach the pin from the various tees. So if you do want to get those, then you sign up on patreon.com/golfclashtommy, link in the description down below. This video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and if you do have any questions, let me know in the comment section below as well. Good luck in the Winter Major Tournament.